There seems to be this urge in you to really take it there, go there, in order for the audience to get it. And you're really, really, really taking us to another planet. Drive that. The improvisational jazz aesthetic sort of composition that you're doing, great. Harass humans to interact in different ways. I will pull them away from instruments because those are earth things. So introduce your own objects. And then this radio talk show situation. I enjoyed that. I would love to see muchness with the environment that you're in as a narrator. For that to really look like your pod. Is that where you sleep as an alien being? Is that where you're most comfortable? So what does that look like? You better get it.
Well, I can show you someday, but
yeah, it was just, I just want to see like the reason for this being appearing on planet Earth. So what is this alien story? Like why? What is the objective of this alien being here? When will you leave? Will you take one of us with you? You know, like why
I'm taking with me.
it's just like why is this being here? And I think if we knew that, or if the being knew that, we would know why we're here watching this alien.
Okay, Mel.
Pretty simple. So I've seen you perform a couple of times now in contexts where you're supposed to be giving your artist statement. And I think it's kind of hilarious on one level that you've completely gotten away with doing what's supposed to be an artist statement or a presentation without any artist statement or presentation. So who taught you professional practice? I mean, have you ever written an artist statement? I've never seen you out of character. What is this work about? How is it contextualized beyond therapy? How is it a conversation? And I'm not asking that rhetorically. I'm asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my artist statement, I'm just sort of like, I just consider myself like an instrument of sound in the body, to do a lot of experimentation, and I'm more about showing than telling, because I mean, if you read a statement is a statement. You know, I think anybody can write a statement. In my former career, my last career before I entered as a performer, I was a journalist, so it's kind of hard to I think in my sense it's hard to jump from the one side to the other side, but this is kind of what I do. I'm also not afraid to show myself, lead, which I have a lot of times, and I'm also willing to help anybody else that asks me for help, just to show them that it's not so bad. Show, kind of show yourself leading or whatever it is that you do. That's kind of what I do.
So I had some thoughts about your third question. Having experienced some of your work recently in the salons, for me, the piece that I felt was the most successful that I myself experienced was the water with the tapping on of the feet onto the brown paper. And I think it's because it's the first time I experienced a performance of yours in which you were facilitating rather than conducting. And I think that's a really interesting difference in the sense that I've always kind of enjoyed watching you conduct, but have always felt excluded from it because it's so personal and it's something that needs to be decoded, and I don't have a means of doing that. But when you created this opportunity for me to interact in a way that was democratic and free and known by all, you know what I mean? That really allowed me to engage the work. So I think that may be a place for you to go, especially because your spirit is so open and so kind of childlike, and you're willing to take all these risks, to be a facilitator or think about community workshops in addition to your conducting and directing work.
Okay, Paul.
I don't know if you-
I just wanted to congratulate you. This is the most focused I've seen you present. So I think you've made a lot of progress. I mean, right, that's what we're doing here. So I think that's really excellent. I feel this is really receivable as both I think Sid, you started with like performance and then a participation and a performance. So this is showing motion to me, which I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Paul.
You know, I'm not sure, it's like some of the questions that you have, I think the third one's probably the most important for you to deal with. Because I know that you have this interest in transferring the knowledge of some of the gestural systems that that we're all seeing and like kind of cracking up about it in some of the videos. I think that Leo's actually commented about you like leading workshops and leading groups, and there might be a necessity to start to answer some of the questions that I think Mel was bringing up about like, how do you make it legible for folks the first time? Maybe you don't. I'm not really sure whether you do or not. What I want to know is this. I have a question for you. It's a different question, and it's because I feel like I'm starting to see trajectory. Could you help me and us know what do you feel like you've gotten like so far? Like right, we're a year and a half in here, or a little bit over that. I know what I think you've gotten, but could you tell us?
Yeah, I think what I can tell you is I can definitely say this year, if any year, in here has been a lot more fruitful for me, especially with the understanding performance a lot better than when I, came in. I mean, because I was already doing that kind of stuff, but not where it's specific. I think, and understanding the community that I'm in, that's been a big thing for me too. And I guess, I don't know if this is the word, I know it's probably gonna sound like a wrong word, but just trying to understand and get along and not necessarily fit, because I know that's not gonna happen. But I mean, just to understand what expectation, that's the word I mean.
So you have a better sense of what's expected of you now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's showing.
But also in grad school as opposed to other places, just, I mean, here in grad school, of not being afraid so much anymore.
Oh, good.
That's kind of I obviously I still am, who isn't, but we just don't say it. But I'm getting there.
I'm happy to hear it.
We have a lot of people on the list. We're probably not going to get to everybody, but Tiffany is next.
I really like the video. And this is the first year that I've seen your work, and I like being given that sort of context. And the video was interesting to me in that since there's a lot of people in this program who could even help you with it, but when you watch like stand-up comedy specials, it's always directed by somebody else. If you get a collaborator to help direct you, and then make, sort of video anthology, put this stuff together. Since you have the radio show, put the sound over it. Make a nice video with the performances and the sound pieces in it, put it all together. Because a lot of us will have access to your own performances, but I thought the video was strong. And I think that the performance you did in class with explaining that you're from Saturn and like all that sort of stuff, putting that together with it worked really well. And since you are always recording, you can play with that recording of a recording of a recording because we have all this documentation. So start to shape it and put it together and get others to help you. Because you can certainly reach out to your classmates. They're helping you with this right here. So I'm getting a feeling for what's going on that way. And I do think that you do have to craft an artist statement. Despite the fact that you say that you're more of a shower than a teller, but we're a journalist. You can write. You're good at it.
Well, I have one. I have one.
what exactly you're doing. I want it to be pointed and that sort of thing.
Sid,
So one of the things that I think is kind of getting at that issue is that one of the things you don't talk about is what this work is about, like thematically. Because having seen a bunch of your performances, there are a bunch of themes that seem to repeat themselves, like sort of alienation, like discomfort with the body, like sort of complexities of how to deal with like spirituality and faith and all this stuff. And the reinterpretation of like found images. And so there are these like through lines, at least that I'm noticing in the cross-section miscellaneous things and groups that I've seen. But if you don't talk about them, if you don't frame those in some way, it can be really hard to see if this, as a body of work, is about anything. So I can really start thinking more concretely about what those through lines are and why you were making work about those things. And I would love for you to like articulate that.
Kellen, wherever you are back there.
You have an incredible live presence, especially with your costumes, with the props, with presenting your candy store henchmen in such a way that it kind of ties into the performative quality. And I was just wanting to say that I think this radio format is really something to jump off at. That maybe you could kind of on Tiffany's thought that maybe you could video document you giving these audio stories or whatever, because you have so much props that you're working with. So it's like the audience, or the audio isn't enough for the audience. And yeah, I was also just gonna say that what was I gonna say? Oh, with the I mean, you've been building this Sid Yiddish character for how long? Like 20 years?
Well, let's see, it'll be 10 years, June 4th.
So I was thinking of maybe going with this David Bowie Ziggy Stardust kind of thing, where maybe you can have eras of Sid Yiddish and come out to say like, hey, you know, I'm warning you that the earth is going to end in 5 years, but maybe you can have some sort of thing that you're trying to say, that all of your infomercials and your objects that you're creating kind of surround that thing you're trying to warn us about, or anyway, I just wanted to throw that out.
Sabina.
Is that a horn over there?
Sorry?
Is that a horn?
No, it's fish.
Yeah, I'm sort of sitting with this, like, I don't understand. I've never seen you before, I just, that the reference to, Afrofuturism, right? So Afrofuturism is mixing historical fact, fiction, fantasy, and Afrocentricity and magic realism with non-Western cosmologies in order to critique, capital letter, not only the present day dilemmas of people of color, but revise, interrogate, and re-examine the historical events of the past. So that's a really, really focused way of thinking about a movement that you're citing here by virtue of talking about Sun Ra. And I'm wondering what am I supposed to understand about being Jewish, or is it a critique? Is it you as Sid? Why is this guy doing this like Catskill shtick? What's happening? What is it reconfiguring? Is it what's going on? I'm just like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on here at all. And I like maybe using Judaic symbols and this and that. I don't feel like that's being examined in any way except for comedy. But the comedy is even like comedians really focus their comedy, and they do use critique and they do unpack cliches and assumptions and things like that in a very deliberate way. And you're telling me that you were a writer or a journalist, and that I think that if that's a really important aspect to you, since it is, that's the whole identity is Sid Yiddish, that looking at how someone like Karen Finley or even actually critique and address and direct what their characters do. Like Karen Finley did a whole piece of being, I don't know what, like married to George Bush, and I mean, very involved narratives, written out, orchestrated, with a political agenda that's taken responsibility for, like writer, or Tennessee Youngman, you know, is critiquing, not only critiquing the cliches of forced on young black men, but also all the cliches forced on anyone involved in the art world, you know, and they collide in this way that's actually pretty potent, right? So if that's what you're aiming for, is that what you're aiming for? Is that it, like that genre, and that, is that a goal to have that like thing going on there, like I just cited with both
Yes
those
and no,
two just.
yes and no, because I'm still at a sort of crossroad with that.
It's talking. Time is up. I think these questions is historical.